Hello, Suits fans. We are here to talk about Suits. It's the 101st episode. It's here, it's loud, it's live, it's next.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Okay.
Shoulders.
Yeah. I love how everyone has their own.
Tonight, JB?
Oh yeah, well you spurred me on. You said you were stepping it up. How could I not?
Then you gotta kind of lead with the rights.
Everybody's getting fancy tonight. I love it.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AfterBuzz TV After Show for Suits. I'm your host, Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann. This is season 7, episode 9. By the way, I have it on and at the board, and I almost Ron Burgundy'd it.
Ooh, nice. Close call. Close call.
Mr. JB Zimmerman.
Yes, you guys can find me everywhere at Hey John Blake.
Hey guys, I'm back again. It's Erica Shannon, and you can find me on Twitter at Miss Airy Baby.
So we talked a lot last week about the 100th episode being last week. It felt like a season finale.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this week did a really good job of setting up some pins to be knocked down in one episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
But like still having stakes, and like some stuff is obviously going to carry over, and like they had an unenviable job in this episode, which was to restart, but don't really restart because we're gone next week.
And to their credit, I think they did a phenomenal job. I mean, even though there was a lot more procedural elements going on, I thought this was like one of the most satisfying versions of that. I mean, we got such a good like pairing of everybody kind of coupled up in a way, and it was across the board. There's a lot of satisfying moments, a lot of group effort. It was weird not seeing Alex, but everybody else was just on their game.
I mean, we can't have Alex forever, I guess.
True. He's got to do double time flying back to Miami.
Then what I don't understand then why he was brought in. I mean, I understand why he was brought in because he was a name and it was somebody to draw potentially, but I don't understand why he was. I had a feeling that he wasn't going to become like a regular. And so it's like, why would you? I mean, it's a role, but it didn't make sense.
Similar to Jessica's a bad example because there are people in that world that it's acceptable that we don't see every week.
Oh yeah.
And I think especially when you get someone like Dule Hill, like it's kind of accepted where it's like you're not gonna see Dule Hill every week.
Yeah.
And
like,
that's what I think.
And since Jessica left, like we're not gonna see Jessica every week, and I'm okay with it. And I think we get plenty of Alex when we get him.
Yeah, and
I do like that.
We agreed last week that he would kind of take the Katrina aspect, where he might pop in when necessary.
Yeah.
But I don't know what case they'll have going forward that they'll need to pull him in on.
Possibly. That's a good point.
Right. Well, yeah, it just kind of depends on which character he works well with, because I think he's he's much more specific in what kind of episode he can be in, because he works well with Harvey, for instance. You know, now we had Harvey very much so paired up with Mike, and then there's the Donna connection. That's kind of all bonding them together, so they can't really steer him away from that. You know, like Lewis has had this thing with Brian, so he's kind of the natural pairing for him. That kind of takes him off the table for working with Alex. So there's really no other person, and we were talking about characters that kind of pop up more here and there. Robert Zane, we got a huge amount of him this episode.
The season.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
The last two, I guess this 2 episodes stand. I think, and this is a little inside baseball, but I think if you're hiring an American actor who doesn't live natively on that show and isn't a regular on that show, you can kind of predict when they are and aren't going to be on the show. So if you have Robert Zane last week, we're more likely to get him this week, because if they're shooting the episodes sequentially, we're going to fly that. We're going to fly Wendell Pierce out for this block of time for 2 whole episodes.
Yeah.
So by not seeing Alex this week, it might be presumed we don't see him next week, and we're not going to see him until the winter episodes start.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Could be.
Doesn't always happen. It's TV.
True.
Let's jump into the Donna, Rachel, Mark of it all. We ended last week that Rachel's text is what stopped Donna from going through with this date with Mark, that if she's anything like Lewis, she would have regretted.
Right.
Holistically, just hated it, regretted it. We're building up to next week, but this week felt like a holding pattern.
Yeah, I mean, it's all because of like the Donna Harvey thing, which I hate, and I feel like I was literally driving to the studio thinking about like why I have such a problem with them being in a romantic relationship.
With Donna and Harvey?
Yeah, Donna
Okay.
and Harvey being together again, which is like obviously a big fan favorite theory that I just like do not buy into. Unpopular opinion, but I was trying to figure out why, and I guess the only thing I can come up with is that if they do end up together, it's got to be at the end of the show because I can't like the relationship Donna and Harvey kills the like working Donna and Harvey for me. I don't know. Like maybe like some people can make it work. I have such a hard time seeing both
Donna
at the
and
same
Harvey
time.
in a relationship is either something so cosmically different that we can't even fathom what it would look like,
Right.
or it's the exact same thing it's always been, but they just go to the same bed.
Where they kiss.
Yeah, like where they kiss once they're down in the car. Like
I guess, but that's like the
It's
least
one or the
fun
other.
marriage ever. Because I mean, like they.
But what are you using that to? What are you using as?
Well, no, I mean,
example
like
against
you know, I like both of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the new bad guy Andy kind
Mm-hmm.
of took a dig at Donna, like, oh, you're at the same place you've always been, like serving the Harvey, like doing his, you know, beck and call, and I think for them to be like a successful relationship or
Yeah.
like marriage, they should be a little bit more equal and a little less like boss employee.
she would be
And not to say that she doesn't hold her own, because
No,
she
no, but,
tells
like-
them to
and
like
I think
sit down.
over years, her being COO would be a much clearer transition.
Right.
That's a really difficult transition for 1 month you're Harvey's assistant and have been for decades.
Right.
And then the next month you're COO of the same company that's not very big.
Right.
Well, depending
Yeah.
depending on which reality we're taking of today's episode, how many people actually work in that office
There were a
and
lot.
can scream shame at Lewis.
There were
Yeah.
a lot today.
Like,
That is the best. That's probably my favorite pop culture thing that they do. And in this episode, they
Yeah.
definitely even referenced like Game of Thrones like by name because it was such a good homage.
although
But
speaking, we are going to come to the Lewis Bryan
okay,
and the,
nice.
like
and
the
fully
Lewis
talk
Bryan
about it,
Sarah all the
totally.
stuff. But bringing up Lewis, the Lewis Donna like showdown next week, essentially like the pre-deposition.
Yeah, the mock trial.
The mock trial, the pre-deposition, like I'm excited for this. That it's because the last time Lewis did this, like it was some of the best TV where you just like, oh,
Right.
Yeah.
oh,
How deep is he gonna go? Like how much is he gonna dig into?
Yeah.
Donna?
It's gonna be crazy because he's done it before too. So
Mm-hmm.
him having to do it again, like with new tricks, I guess. Also, right after having that session with Dr. Lipschitz, being like, we have to give you mechanisms to like keep your lashes to a minimum. Like, yeah, I mean, better late than never. But we'll see how he kind of walks that line.
I'm interested if he's gonna be a savage. Like early Suits season, like season 1 through like 3, Lewis is just so incredibly savage.
Yeah.
That like I feel like he's grown as a person, that he's still gonna be the savage lawyer, but not. I don't know.
Like he's gonna hold himself back, or
but
he's gonna feel himself going there and then stop himself.
No.
You think once he starts going, you think he's just gonna keep going?
Or he's gonna try to find a way to not go there and still get the job done. But I don't know. It seems to me like he's gonna uncover some stuff that Donna's then gonna have to deal with. Because she mentioned it to Rachel in this episode where she was like, I feel bad that I put Harvey over myself.
Right. Well, I think he's probably gonna find out that Donna and Harvey did actually have like a one night thing,
Yeah.
like way back when, and then when he threatens to bring that up in front of the whole company, I think her standing as COO is definitely going to be looked at differently, and I don't know, yeah, that calls it into question like her own, because she's had doubts this season of again going from assistant to COO, kind of a big jump, especially not being a lawyer. Granted, she does kick ass at the job, but she definitely slept with the boss too. So, these are things that a lot of people would kind of make faces at.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it would call into question like how she got the job.
Right, exactly. And like, you know, if she did it once, like
Yeah.
who's
I
to
mean,
say like
question
how
her character.
yeah, exactly.
You slept with Harvey that one time over
Yeah.
10 years ago.
And he
And
paid
became-
you back.
And became COO.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Became COO at a random time.
Yeah.
I mean, if people have a problem with her having the job to begin with, they would use anything,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
to try to get her out of it.
And that's just haters gonna hate. Speaking of haters gonna hate, Andrew's a bit of a hater here.
Oh boy,
And-
let's
yeah.
see.
First off, love this guy.
Jeez,
And
yeah.
I love the way Mike prefaced this in the opening, but then like really throughout the episode we got into this doesn't play into Mike's altruism at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because these Wall Street corporate types are like terrible and sleazy people, they're terrible and sleazy people mainly to each other because that's where the money is.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff Mike's completely okay with doing corporate law.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're a broker going after another broker. You're both millionaires. Whatever. Harvey and the firm needs a win. Andrew has a lot of them and needs to get knocked down a peg. Harvey, of course, doesn't remember he worked with Andrew.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
For 3 years. Classic Harvey.
I mean, and
Being
you're
like, yeah,
what
who
he
are
said
you?
3 offices down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
So
a
you
couple doors
probably
down.
passed him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and
Like,
Donna remembers you, and
it's-
you remember Donna. Like,
yeah, it can't be that big of an office. It's not like a money-making firm or like it's
Well, it's
supposed
DA's
to. Yeah,
office, yeah, like-
exactly.
or
it's
it's a
a
district-
it's a
yeah.
it's a public servant's office. So it's
But then again, if Harvey's spending most of his time with Cameron Dennis, like he wouldn't have time to.
right.
knock
I mean,
on it
yeah, not I mean
forward,
not
the
knowing
office down.
the guy's middle name, perhaps, but like not
Or at least-
recognizing the dude
That's
that
what-
like he saw for 3 years.
I'm bringing my own
Like,
perception into that, but I'm terrible with names, but great with faces.
Yeah.
So there could be a possibility where Harvey sees him at that gym and goes, Andrew.
Yeah. Just
I was curious what you were up to.
yeah.
You're still there? You're still public sector? Really? Okay.
To me, it made sense that he didn't remember him. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just something. Even if the DA's office is kind of small, I still believe that Harvey's just kind of
Yeah,
tunnel
it's
vision.
like-
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the DA's office was a stepping stone for him.
Yeah.
That it makes enough sense where it's like, well, he only cared about like 2 people at that office anyway. Of course he's not going to remember anybody else.
Yeah.
But Andrew has an axe to grind.
Yeah.
Like,
He's not a fan. He's
And
not a
he was
Harvey fan.
personal.
And that flashback was very good at saying like very good at showing us he sees the writing on the wall. That, like this is a stepping
Right.
stone for Harvey. I'm going to be at this office the rest of my life because I want to put bad people away.
Yeah.
Good for you, I guess.
But see, like, and that's the thing. Even though he said that, and he like was like coming at it where he's a type of person that like wants to be like basically the Mike, I guess, very altruistic like type of person. That was his justification for being in that job. Clearly, he doesn't, because right now he's like completely letting his own ego get in the way, and like, you know, this case is very much not clear cut, like putting a bad person away. At least
Definitely.
at the stage that we've seen it right now.
And that's what he picked it for. It was, oh, you're gonna beat this lawyer, because this lawyer is just not on your level, and you're gonna wipe the floor with him. Natty's niche in the chat. I feel like Mike should have done his due diligence on Andrew before suggesting Harvey take the case.
I agree.
guess,
I was
yeah.
watching it and I was like, good job, Mike, giving
Well,
Harvey this case.
yeah, but I mean, again, if Harvey hadn't even like didn't even remember the dude, like it'd be hard to even figure that out. Like, how do you
to be
proper?
Okay,
You know what I mean?
the due diligence would be looking beyond the past 15 wins that were in the journal, because they're talking about the journal. It was he has 15 wins in the journal. He has 15 wins. It's reported in the journal. He's cleaning up Wall Street. Let's take this guy down a peg. And they've painted a good enough character here where he's not altruistic like Mike is either, where he's just as self-serving as Harvey,
Oh, yeah.
but lying about it.
Yeah.
Because at least Harvey at a certain point was like, well, no, I'm going to go do corporate law because I want to win and make a bunch of money. Whereas Andrew wants to win and then still get to say, like, I'm cleaning up the world and being altruistic, like, which isn't true.
Right.
That's not true justice. That's not. he's doing it because he wants recognition for doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas Harvey, at least at a certain point, understood, yeah, I'm doing it because I want to do it. So I'm less interested in helping the little guy.
Right.
And then
And
I'd rather feel guilty about that than lie to myself my whole life.
And that was evident when Andrew was deposing. I don't know if we got,
We didn't catch
the
that woman's
client's
name. Yeah,
name.
we didn't catch the client's
but
name.
he was like, I don't care
Yeah.
if you're guilty.
I don't
or
care
not.
if you're
Like,
guilty or not.
You're going to jail.
I think
Right.
you and I both were pointing at the screen at that moment.
Yeah, no, I was like, I don't like this dude at all. I actually wrote that down. I was like, this guy's.
Because normally in
Nope.
corporate law, like, you can say something like that. If it were Robert Zane detaining someone
Yeah.
against Harvey, that wouldn't be admissible. Because it's whatever, it's civil.
Yeah.
It's a civil lawsuit.
Right.
It's a civil lawsuit. Attorneys say what they say. When you're the district attorney,
Yeah.
you can't just say, I don't care if you're innocent or guilty. I'm going to take you down either way.
Yeah.
What?
The attorney
Yeah.
general can't. That's not
are-
something that.
What?
Yeah.
And then
Wait.
that's when his personal got involved. That's when his ego got involved because he didn't.
'Cause he
even-
doesn't
he
care.
wasn't. He wasn't
Exactly.
prosecutor at that point. He was Andy facing off against Harvey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
He was just trying to prove something.
which this is us defending him because we've been following him for 101 episodes, but Harvey's at least honest about,
Right. Who he is.
I'm here to win.
Totally.
I'm here to win, so I'm picking cases where the rate is high, but the stakes are only as high as the rate.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes Andy such a good villain or person to hate.
Definitely.
Because that, like, being so flip-floppy with your morals, like, even someone like Cameron Dennis, he's not the greatest guy, but it's hard to, at least he's, like, authentic in what he does bad. Like, he will do anything to win a case, including, like, anything illegal. Like, he's bound about that, but, like, he's at least got a code. It's like Dexter, like, you can take a little less blame when they're, like, at least honest about who they are. Andy is, someone who doesn't do that. It's where it's just like, it's just about winning and it doesn't matter. Like, he's got no code. So it seems.
There's actually a lot
And
of
it's
talk
just
in the
about-
chat. There's a lot of talk in the chat based on the Mike should have done his due diligence,
Really?
where there's a lot of talk of like, man, Mike keeps throwing Harvey
Interesting.
really dumb cases. Like, Mike isn't being very helpful right here.
And
I think it'll ultimately be helpful.
What did Mike end up saying? Where he said something to the effect of, "If I had known your history with Andy, I wouldn't have brought this
That's
case
exactly
to you."
what he said.
And then Harvey said in response, like, "If I had known about my history with Andy,
I would have picked this fight myself.
we wouldn't have even gotten this far."
But I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I think there's a bit of a stretch where he must have only read that article in the Wall Street Journal and didn't. But even then, it was the same office. It was like he never jumped offices. Andrew did. So I'm gonna stop thinking about it because it was like this made
It's gonna
sense to
make-
me in the show.
It's gonna make less sense the more
And
we
it
talk about
was, and the fact that Mike Ross, also a superpowered lawyer, might only read the Wall Street Journal report and go, "Let's take down this guy." And if Harvey had beef with him, he'd remember.
It would be.
Right.
It would have been nice maybe to see how Mike came to the decision, to maybe explain it a little bit more.
But I think we're supposed to take that scene at face value that he read the Wall Street Journal like everyone
that's
does.
it.
He read because anyone in business, finance, obviously high-powered lawyers in New York, that the Journal is your Bible. It's your daily Bible, and you read the Wall Street Journal. So if he saw someone on the cover of the Wall Street Journal who is cleaning up Wall Street and he's this hotshot prosecutor, hey, why doesn't Pearson Specter Lit take down this guy? So we're in this thing that I'm reading that everybody else reads. And maybe that was that had to have been all the reasoning, or he would have known.
Right. Well, plus Harvey's got a lot of enemies too. So like, I don't think it's like priority one to make sure for like on Mike's checklist to be like, is this guy all like, does he have a good rapport with Harvey? I mean, he knows that he's on shaky ground with a lot of people, and that's kind of how he likes it. Honestly, like he doesn't go looking for people that hate him, obviously, but he's very used to swimming in those like shark-infested waters.
Yeah, and he didn't know him.
Right.
Like,
And like he didn't even remember him. I think it was all in Andy's mind. I mean, obviously he was really trying to grind, and it.
Well, and they
flashback
compare him
shit,
to Lewis Litt a lot. They compared him to Lewis Litt a lot in the sense that some
Absolutely.
people just have Harvey problems.
Yeah.
Some people see Harvey, and like and by Harvey, I mean, like, there are people that are right around your age and roughly your skill set who are doing, in your mind, way better than you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you project all of your excuses that could have been you onto that person.
Absolutely.
It's Harvey Lewis, it's Andrew Harvey. It happens to Harvey a lot because Harvey's one of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens to Mike a lot. We just haven't noticed. And he's so nice. He runs a charity, and like, when are him and Rachel gonna get it all together? All those two.
Speaking of Mike, I thought it was pretty interesting that he basically admitted he thought the client was guilty,
Yeah.
which was interesting. I don't know.
It's shocking
and it's
we've
like
gone.
7 seasons, but I don't know if Mike's ever taken on somebody that he knows.
I'm
isn't
sure
on
in
the
the
up and
history of the
up.
show he has, but it's shocking how rare it's been in this show. Like, it's a true testament to this show that, like, we're noticing this as that feels really rare for Mike to just openly defend someone who's 100% guilty.
Yeah.
Because he's usually
Right.
not in this position, or if he is, it ends quickly. Like, this is one of the few times where he's like, no, he's guilty. He's guilty. I don't care.
Well,
I don't care. We
I
came
think
here for a win. Not to...
Yeah, I mean, it was different. Like, after coming off of a case that like was literally about people in prison getting killed or getting their lives like ruined. This is like the other end of the spectrum where it's like not. It's still bad. It's still crime, but it's like a very white collar thing that they're doing. It's like more logistical and for profits, pretty much. It seems more like just like a little bit like not above board business.
Yeah.
So you thought it would have been
Well, no, I mean obviously like I just think it's not a complete character flip for Mike to be okay with doing this. Like, he is a lawyer. He does have to defend people to the best of his abilities, or like to the extent of the law.
And I think the majority of corporate law that Mike would be practicing just would be mind-numbingly boring. It would be mind-numbingly boring, similar to how most of us don't. And the show, I think, did a good job of kind of glossing over exactly what happened. It seemed like the CEO woman wanted to sell something quickly before the quarter or the year is done, so she can get a bigger bonus.
Yeah,
Right.
That's basically what
Which
it was.
I didn't realize was a crime. First off,
Yeah.
like, I guess you could argue by doing that you're skirting your fiduciary responsibility to the company making the most money,
Right.
to making the most money for the company that quarter or that year, so your bonus could be bigger.
Right.
But how do you prove that? That's intent. Especially if you don't have a memo.
Right, and that was what he
He's
was
fishing.
trying to.
Like, the
Yeah.
more I
he
think about
was.
this case, Andrew's fishing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be shocked if the research Mike did do was that 10 of the other 15 cases, Andrew was literally just fishing.
Yeah.
Was that he knew he could get somebody on the stand and corroborate, and just because these things are so muddled and public opinion toward people who make millions of dollars in a quarter will not be very high.
Right.
And if he can prove that they broke a law, regardless of how minor the law, a jury will convict it.
Now I'm wondering if that memo, or even the threat of a memo, would have come out if Harvey hadn't gotten involved. Because then there wouldn't have been the opportunity for Andy to say, well, this lawyer
No,
gets
he's
rid of
playing that.
evidence and stuff like that. Would he just have gone against the client's original attorney kind of just straight on?
We have to assume the original attorney wasn't as good as Harvey, so that Andrew would have already been the better attorney. So he would have already found up a way to make her slip up in deposition, or make that attorney slip up in discovery, or like. If I'm thinking about it, it would be similar to poker, where in poker you're playing your cards, position, or the player, and then you have to order them in whatever way every play you make. Whereas Andrew's playing the player with Harvey because he can't beat him on the cards at the position. So he has to play the player. Whereas if it were a lesser attorney, he'd probably be more willing to play the cards at the position.
That makes sense.
And to those who don't play poker,
I was going to
Yeah.
say,
Sorry.
I understood that a little bit.
position is where you are at the table. The cards are your physical cards, and then the player is the person holding them.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know about poker to know that you're playing one of those three things first.
Right. And that's why it was pretty cool to watch, again, Mike and Harvey really at it, like, full blast. It's been a while since we've seen them team up and really, like, go against someone else and kind of be on the offensive. And that's why I think I was more satisfied with this episode. Is like, finally, they're not like playing catch up, or they're not like covering for some mistake that they made.
Which they've been like, they've been behind the 8 ball seemingly
all the
since
time.
Mike.
All the
Seemingly,
time.
like, I don't think there's been an episode where they weren't behind the 8 ball since Mike went to prison.
Right.
Like, since Mike went to prison and the
And
firm
even before
essentially fell
that,
apart.
like when he was on the road to doing that, they were playing defense. Like,
yeah, they've been playing defense for a really long time. That like it's about time we had an offensive episode.
Yeah.
And like this episode, next episode, this is very much a win for the Wall Street Journal, a win for the Gram, if you will.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What us kids would call.
Yeah,
You're just doing it for the Gram.
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm gonna just take down the hotshot prosecutor for the Gram.
Yeah.
I think we just about covered that case because that case
Nice,
is
yeah.
ongoing and it'll come up. It'll come up next week. Let's get into the Lewis of it all, which we really want to talk about.
Ooh, yes.
So
Lewis and Mufasa Bryan.
the episode starts with him walking through the office and the entire office screaming shame at him, a la Game of Thrones. And then we jump into reality without any clear visual marker,
Yeah.
Right.
which they've established this visually with Lewis in this season, but they haven't done it as sudden. Like, there's always been a visual marker to, like, and now we're back.
Yeah.
And then, like, when he started talking to Brian about the nipple stuff, I honestly
Yeah.
thought, like, so is this a dream?
Yeah, just what?
Like, you had to call into question everything that Lewis was
Like,
doing this
immediately,
episode.
like, because at a certain point, like, they're talking about Dr. Lipschitz, and then we cut away to Harvey, so we're like, okay, so I guess we're back. Like, I guess that was just a lapse in conscience,
Right.
and now we're back, but, like, there's still no visual marker, and I'm not complaining. I love it.
Yeah.
I love when they, like, leave that at, like, when they leave it in there for you where it's like, well, that had to not exist for anyone but us.
Yeah.
Lewis and us, whereas that probably existed, or there's probably a variation. My
Of
question
both,
for
yeah.
everyone, do we think the guy who sold the crappy nipples,
Yeah, do you think...
do we think he's actually Sheila's husband?
I do not. I think that part of the phone call didn't happen. Was in Lewis's head.
The phone call happened, and he said.
Oh,
you
the
used
phone call definitely
The phone
happened.
call happened. He said
And
you used the word inferior.
Definitely. And which leads up to the whole, like, countersuit thing, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's all there.
I think that's all there. I don't think if that is true, I don't think he revealed that in that
Yeah.
call. I'm not ruling out the fact that that's still the guy.
I mean, it could be. I just don't think so. I think, or to me, it was like
Because if it's Lewis's subconscious, he knows who the guy is.
Right.
Let's not kid ourselves. He would have hired a private investigator if he had to. He would have found out who that husband was.
In like a day? Isn't that the time?
But see, that's my point.
Since he actually did it, he saw her like a week or a couple days before, and then he actually he saw her at Columbia a couple days before, and then like there was a whole weekend where she actually invited him over.
Yeah,
and Facebook. Like, he doesn't need to hire a private investigator. He can find out who it is real
right.
fast.
I just feel like if he was that guy, if he was like the husband, there would be a bigger fallout. Like, the marriage would be off, or like Sheila would come bursting in. Like, we did like.
I'm not
something.
saying he knows.
Okay.
I'm not saying Lewis. Like, I'm saying
You're
Lewis,
not saying that he said those things, but
I'm not
you're
saying
saying
he, said those
could
things.
be those.
I'm saying they're
that
leaving
person.
the door
Okay,
open for him
okay.
to still be the husband.
Okay,
Because
interesting.
Lewis is
like an unknowing.
and maybe
husband.
even Lewis
So,
didn't know, but his subconscious showed us that because his subconscious
Gotcha.
deep down inside somehow knows.
Interesting theory.
That-
Toy.
That feels like something you don't just leave on the table.
I think that conversation actually happened because of the
Really?
specificity
Ooh.
of it. He said, I'm her fiance. Whatever he said something very specific. He didn't say something like, you're the type of man that will sleep with an engaged woman. He didn't leave it general. He said, I'm Sheila's fiance or something like that. So the fact that he was specific about it, I think that's what lent itself to be more real to me.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Because
I mean,
it wasn't, when he walked in the office, the receptionist said homewrecker.
Right.
She didn't say, you just had a weekend fling with Sheila. Like, she didn't make it specific. So,
Right.
I think taking it that extra step in being more detailed, I think that's what allows it to be more real to me.
Yeah, it feels like he has
It
that
could be.
intel.
It could be.
But he could also project.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Lewis and Harvey for years. Like, he projects. Like, it's
Right.
not ridiculous to think this was a one-off.
No, definitely.
It'd be interesting to know. Kelly H in the chat says, I don't think it happened. Or no, okay, it definitely didn't happen. I saw some people in the chat mentioning that they think it's that this is the guy.
Really interesting. Very
I
cool.
may just be putting words in their mouth now because
Because
I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
If Lewis had looked him up in any kind of way, don't you think he would have recognized him when they went to the office? When he and Brian went to the office?
Right.
There would have been something that we would have seen on Lewis's face that's like a realization.
I might be proposing a crazy theory here.
I mean,
I'm sticking with it.
Lewis
Chat is coming down on me. We're like, no, you're wrong, Steve.
Lewis is so obsessive. Like I feel like he wouldn't just be able to walk away from it if it was this guy.
You're
know what
right.
I
He
mean?
wouldn't.
Like, and when he was talking to Brian, like when he had time to cool down, I felt like that's where they related a lot. Like Brian was like, yeah, I lost it. Like my brain just switched into a different mode, and he just got so caught up in the anger, and like that's when inferior got thrown in there because he was projecting, and I think that rang true for Lewis a lot. And so for me, that's sort of the explanation when he heard inferior. That's like when the lights switched off and he just blacked out. Whatever.
No, I'm not going to take it back because I want to.
Totally. Well, no, yeah,
I want to bask in the glory next week if it's true.
Stick with
Hey,
it.
that'd be super cool.
But I'm fully prepared to walk back that
Fair
statement.
enough. Fair enough.
Is the way I'll go about it.
I
So much Lewis this episode. Loving everything
Yeah.
about it.
I do love the fact that Brian as a new dad is fiercely protective
Yeah.
of that title of father.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not gonna call me a bad father, especially when you don't know me, guy. I don't.
Yeah.
I just met you.
Mufasa Bryant.
Yeah,
No,
cool.
I was with Lewis where it was like, yeah, this was so cool. It was
That
nice to
fire
see
was
him.
warranted. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed, because Brian up until now had been a reluctant pushover, and up until this moment where it was but it was because he's a father. He was a reluctant pushover because he was a father, and then somebody called into question whether he was a good father, and he was like, "Excuse me."
He's like, I stay up late nights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You literally picked at the one thing I know I've devoted my entire life to doing, and then tied it into the other thing I've devoted my entire life to doing. Okay, I've devoted my life to two things. One is more important than the other, and he just spat that fire, and I loved it.
I mean, but okay, so is this guy? They're that company's general counsel. Who is this guy?
He's in the associate. He's an associate in the.
Who,
No,
Brian?
Brian.
Brian or the
No, the guy he was talking
nipple
to.
guy?
Potential. The nipple guy.
The nipple dude.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's just the counsel for the company.
You're right. They never specified whether he was counsel or the CEO because both parties said we.
Right.
I would imagine he was probably the counsel. A lot of.
Because I was asking that question to say Brian offered up the fact that he's a father. Had he not said anything, that guy wouldn't have thrown it back at him.
Yeah.
And then that whole conflict wouldn't have happened. But who knows?
Well,
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it would have to be a very law savvy CEO of a nipple company, which I don't think
You just want to say nipple.
is the thing.
I'm convinced.
I'm pretty sure that's what we're after right
It's
now.
a technical term.
I
It's kind of
It is both a body part and a device.
it's not. They're not real nipples. Right?
And it
Not
was
human
funny every
nipples.
time they dropped it. It wasn't overly used
Yeah,
in the episode.
they laid off the nipples after about midway through the episode. They really laid off the nipples. Gretchen going in this week.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes!
Yes.
Gretchen!
Preach, Gretchen.
I love her. She is she's become full blown that firm mom, and I couldn't be happier. It was such a cool moment.
To
She
yell at Lewis.
yells at Lewis, then yells at her son. It was perfect. I was like, this is
Well, because she yells at Lewis for yelling at Brian.
yeah.
And then she yells at Brian.
For being
Disrespecting.
yeah.
Dare you
Yeah.
speak ill
Right.
of Lewis?
Disrespectful.
Right.
Yeah.
and to be a
And
man
didn't
instead
even
of
refute.
yeah.
Didn't even refute. Yeah, Lewis probably shouldn't have treated you that way. He did.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do about it?
right.
You gonna sit down and cry, or are you gonna
Yeah.
get up and take
He wasn't the
action?
Exactly.
best person, but it came from a place. It came from a pure place because you let him down. You did
Yeah.
did wrong.
Yeah.
I
Exactly, you made a mess.
I like when the
you
moral
better-
tale is that
you either
clear.
clean
Where
it up.
it's-
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're both gonna apologize. In the meantime,
Yeah.
are you gonna resign?
No, yeah, it was such a good moment.
I do understand Brian. Brian like resigning made complete sense to me.
Oh yeah.
That he needed a Gretchen to literally like slap him into shape.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it because when Gretchen first came on, wasn't she like Donna, but not in Pearson Specter later, whatever. But she knew things, or she was able to perceive things.
Well, she hadn't been a secretary at a law firm, I believe. I believe she was a secretary at, because it was on this very show, because it was years ago where the first episode, Donna had a list of applicants, and Gretchen was like third on the list. And I took a screenshot and we all decided Gretchen would be the candidate. And then the next week he hired Gretchen. It was really cool. It was a big deal.
Nice.
But her experience was not that of an assistant or executive assistant or a secretary as much as it was more hands-on, which is what made her more necessary to handle something like Lewis.
Yeah, and she's also the only assistant really that we know. I mean, I'm sure there are others working in the background.
Hopefully.
Not at Harvey's desk.
Well,
People
hey,
just walk in out of there like it's nothing.
There's people to shake shame bells when they're necessary, but
nobody to stop.
no
Andy
one's
from
no one's
just
answering the
walking
phone.
in.
Yeah.
I would just like to put out a public notice. I will go up to Canada and shoot episodes if Harvey needs an assistant that's against type to like what Donna would be.
I was gonna say that would be
Again,
interesting to
hey.
see Harvey with a male assistant.
Ari and Entourage had a male assistant for very long. It wasn't Lloyd. There was a separate like bro-y male assistant, and they bonded. It was really, really good.
Wait, when?
Nice.
Like the end of the because Lloyd became an agent
Head
in the
of
middle of the
TV,
episode.
head of the TV department.
Lloyd became an agent and then head of the TV department
Yeah.
in the middle of the series. It's Entourage now, guys.
Yeah.
And then he had like a real bro-y assistant for a pretty long time. It's possible. The dynamic works.
Hey, switch it up.
Do you need my HBO Go login? Because I don't have one. I think we're talking about Entourage. We should probably move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Robert and Rachel Zane and a bank that's doing predatory lending, which love that we got more Robert Zane. Love that we got the initial. I love that we got the initial motivation that he wanted to do a case with, like a slam dunk case with his daughter. But I also love both, like, the deep-seated roots of the CEO, but also that he saw Mike laying it all on the line. After everything Mike's been through, he's laying it all on the line to help prisoners he's never met, necessarily, because he was in a public prison, but he understands the system. And it really motivated Robert that it's like, I mean, if Mike's going to do it now... Like, if Robert Zane were ever in a place to actually do good in the world, it's now. Which that motivation enough would be enough to go after predatory, racist loans or mortgages. It gets deeper. That CEO also sexually harassed his sister?
I think so.
Rachel's aunt.
I
So
think
his sister, and then fired her when she complained.
I will say before that, we talked about it last week about the conversation between Robert and Rachel. It was quick. It happened. He was, I'm trying to think of the right word, not appreciated, but he respected that she did what she did as a lawyer. And he was like, okay, we're done, moving on.
Yeah. And I think that's what allowed them to actually like work together. Like he was able to see her as a, like just professionally and like be able to separate the two. So that was really cool to see them work together. Obviously, this was a passion thing for Robert, being that it was like his family and like he felt like that he had done wrong. I did want to see a little bit more Rachel, so hopefully if this case continues that she, figures out a way to step up or not necessarily step up, but like
do a little more.
Find a solution that Robert is obviously not seeing because he's so close to it. I think she is fully capable of doing that, and other than just calm him down, which she definitely needs as well, because he just kind of...
Well, and it's clear the case is well beyond. And I do like this entire story that he was like, he was a young lawyer. He was a young lawyer. There's literally nothing he could do for his own sister. It's like, kind of like that's the world we live in kind of a thing. That stories like that always irk me because it reminds me of a study I'll say briefly that allegedly the way the study went is they put five monkeys in a room and they put bananas at the top. They put bananas at the top of at the ceiling, and then they introduce a ladder into the room. If all five once they introduce the ladder, all five monkeys try to climb the ladder to get to the bananas. Once they do that, they pour sprinklers on the monkeys. Monkeys don't like to get wet. None of them climb the ladder. They took one monkey out, put another in. That monkey immediately tries to climb the ladder and grab the bananas. The other four monkeys, not wanting to get wet, beat up that monkey. And then they do that more than 5 times until the point is that 4 monkeys, none of whom were ever actually soaked by the water, beat up on a fifth monkey who's just trying to grab a banana.
It's conditioning.
Not knowing why.
Yeah.
And I think it's very similar. It's very like what Robert's seeing right now is very much like anytime somebody tells you, well, that's just the way things go around here. Why?
Yeah.
If you can't tell me why. And I think that Robert part was very much like he knew the why was just bad. And it's like that's how things are, and like he's finally trying to be an agent of change.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's going to continue on this route, because as we saw last week with the Reform Corp, it was kind of personal for him too, because he was like, the people from my neighborhood, they've fallen into this life, and so I want to do something to change it. I wonder, is this now the direction that he's going to take his career in? Because if he's getting closer to retirement, he might think, like you're saying, I need to be an agent of change. I need to have some mark that I leave, the Zane name, or I pass on to Rachel and she continues, or something like that.
Or at least do right by somebody. Like, at least right a wrong he wanted to. Because he's going after the CEO mainly to right the wrong. He seemed a little transparent about it, to be very honest. Like, I need to depose the CEO.
Yeah.
You can have 12 loan officers and then maybe a bank manager. Like, can we...
If we get past the
Can
loan
we,
officers,
like-
Let's start at the
Can
beginning.
we-
Yeah. But no, I like the new Robert Zane. He used to be a little bit more one-dimensional, and he was just that like aggressive bulldog, kind of like Lewis was in the early days, and just kind of was more one note. And to see him call himself out on that and try to change, try to do like pro bono cases, try to do something for like the greater good, like is really cool. And you can see like it's still a struggle. Like he still goes about it in a similar way where it's like bulldoze by people and just like force them almost to change. And that's why I think him partnering with Rachel is actually really cool, because she's the opposite. Like she is very more like calm and like collected. Yeah, she's warm. She she can like honestly, I see her like next episode like appealing to these people to get them to like admit something as like more of like a friend. Obviously Robert is not able to do that. So, them being a team is really cool and not something that like other people or is really like exemplified anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this. I'm about to ask, do we think Robert Zane, we see him next week? But that's a prediction, and I think we're ready.
I was just going to say
sorry.
really quick, I think it was intentional that the first loan officer that they brought in was a woman of color.
Oh, that was absolutely...
Yeah.
Her
Totally.
name might as well have been Token.
Yeah.
They brought her in intentionally because they're like, how are you going to challenge, predatory lending when you're sitting in front of an employee of this company? And that's why Robert was like, how can you work for people like this?
Also, let's get into predictions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, something that jumped out at me immediately. Oh, corporate gives us an algorithm. Corporate gives us an algorithm that strips away all the identifying data. There's your gun. Who made the algorithm?
Right.
What is the... And, like, it's actually well known in litigation now that, like, algorithms are considered proprietary, so you can't subpoena that. So I'm sure if you subpoena what, like, the nuts and bolts of that algorithm are, you can actually find pretty clear racism in it.
Right. Well, and also just the fact that there is an algorithm for identifying those characteristics, and even if it is like intended to mix it up, that means it can also do the opposite, which is filter it and
because I think he alluded to that in his anger, which was just no, you but why are they asking for your race or income? Like,
Right.
why are they asking for your race or marital status or things that don't apply to whether or not you should get a good mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
Or I also don't understand
And she
why
was
garbage
saying-
mortgages exist, but that's a whole thing.
And she
Yeah.
was saying it's because to protect against fraud, which
But it's a thing in the financial world. It's a thing in the financial world where companies will claim, well, that algorithm is proprietary. If we give it to you in
Right.
open court, then everyone will have it.
but
Then
for
we can
something
also
like
put
that,
but
why
that's
wouldn't
also
you?
where we can put our racism.
yeah.
So
And
Robert
what's
Zane's
her
a good
name?
enough person to get it out there. Yeah.
Davies. Her last name was Davies. I think the company's
Yes.
attorney. She was saying that we'll bring in. There's 5 more. Robert was saying there's 5 more that they have to see, and she was saying, and they're all going to tell you the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That could be something too. You've handpicked 5 loan officers
course.
that would try to like throw you off. I don't know. I think they're gonna win because that's just the way that Suits kind of works out
Of course.
sometimes.
They're definitely gonna win, and I think I wouldn't be shocked if he had to settle, or if he
Right.
had to, or if he like ruffled enough trees to like they're not gonna give you the algorithm. They're not gonna give you the algorithm, but they're gonna settle for a lot of money, and the
Right.
CEO is gonna and he says, I don't want the money. I want the CEO to step down and publicly apologize, or like it'll be something like that. That it will be very much like a can't always get what you want kind of a tale.
No, I agree. I think the bigger win is honestly the Rachel and Robert Zane, their relationship getting stronger, because Robert, I think this is a personal case for him, and he's doing it pro bono. There isn't like a huge amount of stakes other than righting a wrong that he feels bad about, that like it happened to a family thing. So I think he would be okay with more of a personal resolve with this guy, with the head CEO. On the other side, like this Harvey Mike case, complete opposite. Like if that goes south, like that's bad.
Harvey's gonna beat him. I think that's
Right.
foregone. Also, Dr.
I mean,
Agard,
Harvey always-
Dr. Agard is
always
gonna
has to
have to
win.
leave, right? There's
Yeah.
no way she survives past the summer.
No,
I don't
think
know.
so
See,
either.
like
She's
like,
held on way too long, guys.
But that's how I feel like they use these hiatuses to kind of make things feel bigger than they are.
Yeah.
Like, like basically if we don't see Alex, for instance, next episode, there's a lot of bang for your buck there. Like where we come back in the winter, it's like he's been such a big part of the firm for so long. Like there can be these issues that come up that are like have a lot of stakes because he's technically been there for a while.
Let's get to the big question. Does Harvey profess her love does Donna profess her love for Harvey at the end of this episode? Episode 10?
Next episode.
And who said this in the chat? Pretty sure it was Jassim9813 in the chat, who I think she just came here to tell us this during predictions, that she thinks it's going to happen as a cliffhanger.
I think so too. Yep, I agree.
I think we're all in agreement that that's
Yeah.
But then
that's
I'll
like
even
how
take
the
it a step
episode ends.
further. I don't think Donna's gonna necessarily say anything. It might be an action that turns on a light bulb for Harvey.
Yeah.
Because we see her leaving, and I think something's gonna happen, or maybe she is gonna say it. I don't know, but where he's gonna go, oh, and then like chase after her.
Well, and she's also there's no doubt that she loves him, so it's something
Right.
more like, I have feelings for you. I can't just be I've always had feelings for you. Like I think about that night every day. Like there's something there. There's something there that she's gonna say that's just gonna leave us just like February? What? Like it's just gonna leave us in a place. Do we have any predictions at large before we get on out of here?
Ooh.
No. I don't, but I have something
Yeah.
to ask the chat or
Go for
anybody
it,
else
please.
that's watching. Can somebody confirm for me that was Nigel Sean Williams that was the judge in, I believe that was Harvey's case?
Yes.
If just some history, I believe that was the same man who played Artemis on The Famous Judge Jackson, which was an old Disney Channel show. R.I.P. to Lee Thompson Young. But if somebody can confirm that for me, because that's gonna drive me nuts.
Fair enough. Great.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Kelly H in the chat says she's gonna riot if Harvey stays with Dr. Agard.
I don't think we see her next season. Or next
How can we?
set of episodes.
How is?
She
Well,
might make
'cause,
it
I
to
mean,
the end
that's-
of this episode, but I
that-
don't think she's gonna.
Yeah, I
see
mean,
her.
she's serving right now as the obstacle for why I guess they can't be together, other than my own just opinion against it. But that's what I mean. Like that can be. That makes a big cliffhanger for me if she does say that to Harvey. Like we see her say that, and he says like, "Well, I'm in a relationship." Like, dun dun dun. Like I don't know.
Here's how I see it from the board. Lewis is going to rile up some feelings in Donna, who is then going to have to confess them to Harvey. Harvey is somehow either going to have to share that, or it's already going to be well known between Harvey and Dr. Agard. I am forgetting her first name. And
Paula.
yes, it's going to be, and Paula's going to probably walk out on him because he can't just
Choose,
alone,
yeah.
or that he can't easily choose her, or be like, he's like, well, it's complicated, and she's going to walk out at him, or some variation of that. Also, Harvey will wipe the floor with Andrew while it's all happening. I feel like that Harvey wiping the floor with Andrew, like Andrew is a worthy opponent, but a beatable in 2 episodes opponent.
Right.
Is
I agree.
definitely.
I follow that.
And now my wrestling is seeping in, so I think it's.
Yeah, no, I definitely think the case is gonna get resolved in a positive way, and we're gonna have a satisfying it's season finale. We've got to crush this dude. It's a great
Although,
villain, but I
Kelly
need
H
to
in the
see-
chat is not alone in thinking this will be really disappointing if he's still with Dr. Agard at the end of episode 10.
I would.
I'm seeing a lot of that sentiment. Like we're
Fair enough,
universally
fair enough.
disliking this plot.
I don't know. I would feel more upset if this case gets dragged on to next season. If this like Andy situation isn't resolved, rather than the Paula thing. I can live the winter
You can live the winter if
pretending that
Harvey
this
tells
relationship's
him-
gonna get
If Harvey
work
tells
out.
him and the Paula stuff is whatever,
Yeah.
I could deal with that. I think we're ready to go here.
All
Yeah.
right,
I'm
let's
ready
do
for
it.
next
Yeah,
week.
next
I think
week.
we're all ready for next week. It's going to be so much fun. It's the summer finale.
Yes, it
I'm
is.
starting with my furthest left.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us in the chat and listening. I'm Erica Shannon, and you can find me on Twitter at Miss Airy Baby.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely tune in next week, guys, for the finale. You guys can follow me until then at Hey John Blake.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That's KAUFMANN. I do a lot of shows here at AfterBuzz TV. I tweet about them regularly. I'm also doing The Sober Year. If you go to thesoberyear.com, it'll take you straight to that YouTube playlist where I'm doing a weekly vlog where I'm not drinking. Know that the lack of a beard has nothing to do with it. It's a separate thing. But go to thesoberyear.com. And thank you and good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.